Legal cases across the country are putting a face on post-Roe America. Dallas mom Kate Cox's court battle in Texas, for example, ended with her leaving the state for an abortion after finding out her unborn child had a genetic condition called Trisomy 18. It's an abnormality where a child is born with 3 copies of chromosome 18 instead of 2. It usually results in life-threatening complications for the baby. Kate Cox's decision sparked both fury and compassion. Most babies with the condition die within their first year, but can children survive it? We wanted to better understand this diagnosis and the toll it can take on children and their families. I went to Noonan, Georgia to meet a little girl and her mother doing everything they can to live a full life in spite of the diagnosis. This is first and foremost a love story between a mother and her daughter, who is just like any other 6-year-old girl. She's sweet and a little bit sassy.
Another time she told me, "Away you cow, I have to use the potty." And I said, "Excuse me?"
You can see the love in the way Kimberly Minor understands her daughter Georgia, even though Georgia can't speak.
You're very proud of yourself?
Georgia was born with Trisomy 18, a rare life-threatening genetic condition where a body makes an extra copy of chromosome 18, typically resulting in low birth weight, clenched fist, and congenital heart defects.
They also frequently have central nervous system abnormalities and have generally fairly severe cognitive issues, cleft lip and palate, some gastrointestinal malformations, kidney malformations.
It's the same condition at the heart of a historic abortion case in Texas that captured headlines. In that case, Kate Cox decided to end her pregnancy after facing health complications herself and learning her unborn child had full trisomy 18 and likely wouldn't survive. She was forced to leave the state to get an abortion, since abortions are almost always illegal in Texas. As for Kimberly, Georgia's condition was a total surprise to her and her husband, Patrick. Their doctors had told them throughout the entire pregnancy their baby girl was healthy.
I was working full-time, like 80 hours a week as a restaurant manager, and she made it through birth in spite of nobody having any idea.
And then a traumatic birth changed everything.
And they go to pull her out, and the entire room goes quiet. It's like if you walk in a party and you know that everybody was talking about you. She was born not breathing.
The baby was half the size she should have been, 4.5 pounds, and she had 3 heart defects. Kimberly pressed for genetic testing, and Georgia wasn't diagnosed until weeks after she was born.
The pediatrician's office had the receptionist call us to tell us that she tested positive for trisomy 18, and when I asked what it was, she told me to Google it.
What she found terrified her.
85% don't even survive birth, that most don't walk or talk or eat, that they have tons of, deformities, and they are basically vegetables that have no emotions or feelings.
Doctors told Kimberly and Patrick 90% of children with this condition will die by their first birthday.
That first year of her life, I was just constantly scared I was going to just pull over and she'd be dead in the back seat, or wake up in the morning and she'd be dead in her crib. But then she lived, and she kept living.
Dr. Jeffrey Dungan, a gynecologist with Northwestern Medicine, says life with trisomy 18 ranges in difficulty depending on the type babies have.
If there's mosaic trisomy 18 and the structural issues are not as severe as they are with full trisomy 18, then the outcome can be a little less predictable, because again, it depends on what kind of interventions are needed to help the child survive and thrive.
But Georgia is beating the odds, using a walker after being told she'd never put one foot in front of another. To say it hasn't been easy getting Georgia the care she needs is a massive understatement, with doctors denying her services afforded to other special needs children.
For the longest time, kids with trisomy 18 were denied life-saving interventions based on this idea that they were incompatible with life, which then shows, guess what? They're incompatible with life because nobody's providing life-saving interventions.
Private insurance only covers a chunk of Georgia's needs, and she only qualified for a couple of government assistance programs. She was denied Medicare aid at least 3 times before the state conceded, and still, Kimberly felt doctors in the area weren't going to help Georgia thrive.
We actually now travel to Cincinnati for all of our care for Georgia, because we were very aggressive about what kind of care we wanted for her.
Now, nearly 7 years after her daughter was born, Kimberly says taking care of Georgia is just like being any other soccer mom.
I'm a therapy mom, and drive all over the place for different therapies at different times, but she goes to school with other kids her age, and she does cheerleading, she does dance, all kinds of fun stuff. Push through this one. Push, good job.
A couple hours a week, Kimberly and physical therapists at Kids in Motion outside Atlanta help Georgia learn to walk. The painstaking work, worth it for moments like this.
There you go.
Then there's speech therapy. Because Georgia is nonverbal, she uses a computer that tracks her eye movements to help her communicate. They're waiting on a new one, which costs $10,000. It's just one of the many expenses that come with Georgia's care, with the family relying on GoFundMes and food and clothing donations to make it day by day. Kimberly eventually became a professional photographer, building her schedule around Georgia's care while her husband works full-time. And now that Georgia is seemingly through the worst of the storm, they're taking time to have some fun.
She loves to go camping and visiting. She's got her dogs. She's obsessed with them. And yeah, that's in a lot of ways, if anything, she's living a better life probably than a typical 6-year-old because she's spoiled rotten every day of her life.
Dungan says Georgia is a rare case, and parents who get this diagnosis should weigh their options.
And they should feel like they have as much information and data and feel supported in their decision. And if they're not getting that at the center they started at, they should find somewhere else to be taken care of.
Kimberly can't deny Trisomy 18 brings about a world of pain, with a majority of babies never making it to term, and those who do often die young. She and Georgia honor their lives by putting their faces on a special Christmas tree.
They're the kids I found when I needed to find hope. And then when those kids pass, you're like, oh, it's not always safe. It's not always secure. You might not always have them forever.
But she wants people to see the diagnosis creates another world of love, where every step forward is magic.
There are kids that don't survive, but there are kids that do. And it's not fair to just write off every version of that case.
And for Georgia, giving up is not an option.
She gets up and smiles and is like, all right, let's do this. And yeah, silly girl.
And what was so fun about getting to spend time with Kimberly and Georgia, we got to see Georgia's little personality shine through. She uses that retinal display computer to communicate, and she kept trying to press the button to say eat. She was hungry, and she didn't want to do speech therapy anymore. And we stuck her in therapy for a couple more minutes because we wanted to see what she could do, but she kept going back to that eat button. And so it's so sweet to see the personality that these children have, and Kimberly wanted to make sure that she showed that.